The cafe went silent as a black waitress faced down a tech titan, and in seconds, she shattered his arrogance with the truth hidden in fine print. The contract hit the counter with a slap that rattled the sugar caddy and made the salt shaker topple onto its side. Darius Whitmore didn't even blink. He was a man who had built an empire on sharp elbows and sharper words, and here he was, jaw set, eyes cold, as though this dingy corner of Atlanta had been transformed into one of his boardrooms. The hum of Old Town Cafe stuttered into silence. A fork clinked against a plate and froze. Somewhere in the corner, the jukebox, midway through a Motown hook, crackled into a sudden pause as though the music itself was holding its breath. "If you're so damn smart," Darius said, his voice dripping disdain, "then translate this." His palm flattened against the thick legal document as though pinning prey. Every head in the cafe turned just slightly, curiosity thick in the air. A billionaire in a tailored navy suit did not belong among cracked vinyl booths and chipped formica tables, nor did the fury in his voice belong in a place that smelled of fried eggs and burned coffee. Maya Williams stood behind the counter in her faded gray apron, a pencil tucked into her hair, one hand resting on a notepad worn soft from countless breakfast orders. 19 years old, tired from a double shift, she should have looked small beneath the weight of his glare. But she didn't. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she tilted her head, the tiniest crease of curiosity passing over her face, as if this act of aggression were nothing more than a puzzle dropped into her lap. "Is this the entire contract?" she asked, her voice steady, low, not defensive, not afraid, simply precise. The question seemed to surprise even the air. Darius blinked once, irritation flickering across his blue eyes. "Does it matter?" "It does," Maya said. "Context changes things." The cafe murmured softly, like wind moving through dry leaves. The line cook peered out from behind the pass window, spatula in hand. A retired vet in the corner booth leaned forward, eyes narrowing, sensing that the girl who usually brought him coffee was about to do something no one expected. Darius gave a little shrug, as though granting a child permission to play with a dangerous toy. He leaned back, arms crossed, the posture of a man who had already decided on the ending. Maya picked up the contract, its pages heavy with fine print and red ink scrawled in the margins. She didn't skim. Her dark eyes moved quickly but carefully, scanning clause after clause, her lips pressing into a faint line of focus. Minutes stretched long, the cafe breathed with her, waiting. Then she stopped, tapped the page with her finger. "Here," she said simply. "Clause 7C, market disruption." Darius leaned forward despite himself. She didn't look at him. "The language is vague, too vague. It says the merger can be terminated if your stock dips more than 7% after the announcement, but it doesn't define what counts as market disruption. That gives them freedom to walk away whenever they want. Too much wiggle room." Silence wrapped the room. Even the dishwasher in the back seemed to pause mid-cycle. "And this?" She flipped another page, voice calm, precise, like a surgeon naming an artery. "Escrow demands 400 million locked with no release triggers. That isn't partnership, that's leverage." Darius's mouth opened, but no words came out. The same man who had stared down senators, dismantled competitors, and never once hesitated in the face of billion-dollar deals, found himself still. "How do you know all this?" he managed at last. Maya finally looked up, eyes sharp, unwavering. "I used to read things like this in class, Emory pre-law, before my mom got sick, before I had to start flipping pancakes to pay the rent." Something shifted then. Barely visible, but real. The billionaire who thought himself untouchable felt his foundation tremble, just slightly, under the weight of a waitress who refused to be invisible. And when she pushed the contract back across the counter with neat notes scribbled on her order pad, the cafe exhaled in awe. For the first time in years, Darius Whitmore, the man who built Whitmore Tech from scratch, was no longer in control. The cafe had gone back to its usual rhythm the next morning, but Darius Whitmore hadn't. He spent the night staring at the ceiling of his penthouse, his mind replaying the scene over and over. The waitress who had cut through his billion-dollar contract like it was a high school quiz, the poise in her voice, the fact that she had been right. For a man like Darius, being outplayed was rare. Being outplayed by someone he had dismissed, that was unforgettable. 3 days later, he found himself outside Old Town Cafe again. The place looked smaller in daylight, ordinary, but to him, it pulsed with unfinished business. He stepped inside, his navy suit sharp against the peeling linoleum floors. Customers glanced at him with fleeting recognition of power, though most weren't sure who he was. Maya saw him instantly. She was balancing a tray of water glasses, hair pulled back, apron faintly dusted with flour. She didn't falter, didn't offer a smile. Just a measured look, like she'd already weighed him once and wasn't interested in doing it again. "Back for the eggs?" she asked when she finally passed by his table. "Back for you," he said, blunt. The words hung in the air, heavier than he intended. Maya set down the tray and leaned forward slightly, unimpressed. "I'm working," she said flatly. "I won't take long," Darius insisted. "I just wanted to say thank you. You saved me from a disaster." His voice dropped, quieter. "Millions, maybe more." Her eyebrow rose. "You sure you want to be seen thanking a waitress?" "That's the thing," he replied, sliding onto a stool at the counter. "I'm not sure you are just a waitress." Maya tilted her head, arms folded across her chest. "And what else do you think I am?" He hesitated, his usual weaponized eloquence failing him. "Someone who sees through systems. Someone who can spot weakness in places trained lawyers overlook. Someone who, given the chance, might outthink every junior associate at my firm." The cafe noise swelled and dimmed again, like the universe leaning in. "So what?" Maya said at last. "You offering me a job?" "Not exactly," he said. He leaned closer, his voice low, stripped of arrogance. "I'm offering you a conversation, off the clock, no suits, no condescension, just coffee. My treat this time." She studied him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded once. "Come back at 10. That's when my shift ends. If you're serious, you'll wait." "I'm serious," Darius said. "Then we'll see," she replied and walked away. Hours later, the cafe had emptied of its lunch rush. By 10 o'clock, the jukebox hummed a slow ballad to an almost deserted room. Maya emerged from the back with her apron off, hair down, a towel still in her hand. She sat across from him at the same booth where the contract had once lain. "You're persistent," she said, eyes narrowing just slightly. "I'm curious," he admitted. "About you. How someone like you ends up here, instead of in a courtroom or a boardroom." Maya didn't look away. "Life doesn't follow a script, Mr. Whitmore. I had a plan, full ride to Emory, mock trial champ, but then my mom's kidneys failed. Dialysis 3 times a week, Medicaid covered almost nothing. My brother started slipping in school, bills piled up, school had to wait. So here I am." She said it without self-pity, without apology, just fact, a ledger of survival. Darius leaned back, unsettled. For once, he didn't know what to say. He had spent his career surrounded by sharks, by people who bartered in ambition and clawed at opportunities. He hadn't considered the possibility of brilliance cut short not by laziness, but by sacrifice. "I kept studying, though," she added, fingers tracing the edge of her water glass. "Law journals, blogs, anything I could get my hands on. Even started coding a little, working on a legal literacy app for teens. Nothing big, just something so the next kid doesn't get trapped by a lease or a contract they don't understand." Darius's pulse kicked up. He saw, in a flash, not just a waitress but a visionary. He saw an empire he hadn't built yet, and one he couldn't build alone. "I want to help you," he said finally. "Develop. There's funding, resources, whatever it takes. You lead, I back you." Maya's gaze sharpened. "I'm not asking for charity." "Good," he said quickly. "I'm not offering it, I'm offering partnership." For the first time that night, her lips curved into a faint, wary smile. "Then hear me clearly," she said. "I don't want to be your project. I want to be your equal." "You will be," he promised. Outside, the city pulsed with indifferent neon. Inside, possibility hummed louder. 2 mugs of coffee clinked between them, not as customer and waitress, not as billionaire and server, but as something else, something neither of them yet had a name for. And for the first time in years, Darius Whitmore felt not the thrill of a deal, but the thrill of something far rarer, hope. The elevator doors whispered open onto the 29th floor of Whitmore Tech, and for a heartbeat, Maya Williams wondered if she had stepped into another planet instead of a building. The floors gleamed like polished ice, so spotless she could see the nervous reflection of her thrifted navy blouse and scuffed sneakers. The ceiling soared high above her, threaded with steel beams and modern art light fixtures that buzzed faintly, sterile and cold. Everything was glass, walls, offices, conference rooms, an empire built on transparency, yet designed so only a chosen few ever truly felt seen. She clutched the worn leather binder against her chest like armor. Inside were her wireframes, handwritten notes, and ideas sketched on napkins stolen from the diner. They were her shield against a world that had already decided she didn't belong here. At the reception desk, the woman had blinked twice at her name. "Waitress Maya," she'd muttered as though the words themselves were a joke. Maya had only lifted her chin, refusing to flinch. Darius was waiting for her in the boardroom. He stood when she entered, not in his usual commanding way, but with something close to respect. "Come on in, don't worry, it's just us," he said. His voice held an edge of something new, nervousness. But Maya wasn't fooled. She could feel the eyes on her even through the glass walls. Men in pressed suits glanced up from their laptops. Women with tight ponytails and sharper stares whispered behind hands. A black waitress in their boardroom was less a curiosity than a disruption, and everyone in the tower felt it. She sat down, smoothed her blouse, and opened her binder. "Before we dive into your mock-ups," she said evenly, "I want to go over core priorities." Her voice was clear, deliberate, sharper than she felt inside. "This app has to be accessible, visually and linguistically. We're talking about high schoolers, working adults, immigrants, people who don't have lawyers on speed dial." Darius leaned forward, intrigued. "Go on." "I want layered content," Maya continued, flipping to a hand-sketched diagram. "Scenarios, interactive, you sign a lease, get pulled over, apply for unemployment. What happens next? Real consequences, simple language, no jargon. Law shouldn't feel like a weapon only a few can use." The words landed with quiet force. For a moment, even Darius seemed to forget the billion-dollar view outside the window. He saw only her certainty, her calm fire. The spell broke with a knock. The glass door opened, and Raymond Teller entered. Senior VP of Legal Affairs, late 40s, every inch of him polished to a shine, pressed gray suit, steel blue tie, jaw tight enough to crack granite. His gaze flicked over Maya once, dismissive, before he turned to Darius. "I thought this was a closed session," Raymond said. "It is," Darius replied. "Maya's part of this now." Raymond's smile was thin as a blade. "Right, the waitress." Maya didn't flinch. "Still do weekends at Old Town," she said lightly. "The tips are better than you think." Darius straightened, his voice harder. "Raymond, she caught 2 kill clauses in the merger documents your entire team missed." The silence that followed was sharp enough to cut. Raymond blinked once, then pasted on his polite smile. "Well, I'm sure she's very intuitive. She's leading the app project," Darius said, no hesitation. "I want your team to support her. Legal vetting, IP frameworks, the works." Raymond tilted his head, studying Maya as though she were a puzzle piece jammed into the wrong box. "You're serious?" "I don't joke with 9 figures on the line," Darius shot back. Raymond's lips curved, but his eyes stayed cold. "Of course, we'll be cooperative." When he left, the room felt heavier. Maya looked down at the table, her jaw tightening. "He's not going to help me. He's going to stall me." Darius sighed. "He's old school." "No," Maya said, lifting her eyes to his. "He's a gatekeeper, and I'm not the kind of person he ever imagined walking through the gate." Darius rubbed his jaw, studying her. "Do you want me to fire him?" "No." Her voice was steady. "I want to earn this, not inherit it. Let me deal with him. But when I ask for something, I need to know you've got my back." The words hung heavy between them, weightier than any contract clause. Darius met her gaze, unblinking. "You have it." That night, Maya returned to her cramped apartment. The air smelled faintly of spaghetti and Vicks. Her mother dozed on the recliner with a heating pad on her side, and her little brother Marcus hunched over math homework at the kitchen table. Maya settled on the floor with her battered Chromebook, duct tape holding the hinges together, and opened her notes. The corporate walls of Whitmore Tech had tried to make her feel small. The polished sneers of Raymond Teller had tried to make her feel unqualified, but as the glow of the screen lit her tired face, Maya's determination only sharpened. She wasn't here to play defense. She was here to build, and no matter how tall the towers around her, she would not let them erase her. For the first time, she saw it clearly. This wasn't just about her app. It was about rewriting who got to speak, who got to be heard, and who got to belong in rooms made of glass. And in that quiet apartment, Maya swore to herself, nobody, no matter how powerful their suit, was going to stop her now. The clock in Maya's apartment blinked 2:17 a.m., its red digits cutting through the dim. Her mother slept on the recliner, breathing slow but uneven, and Marcus had long since sprawled out across the couch with his math book still open on his chest. The soft city hum outside their window was the only soundtrack as Maya sat at the kitchen table, her Chromebook open, eyes raw and red. She had been poring over the Whitmore-Kessler merger documents for hours, tracing every line, clause by clause, footnote by footnote. Something had been bothering her since she'd first read the summary draft. She couldn't name it, only that it felt wrong, slippery. She flipped back to a section labeled Contingency Triggers. Her pen tapped against the margin. That's when her eyes stopped. A single word leapt out at her like a spark in the dark: temporary. In the event of a market-based valuation event resulting in a temporary decline exceeding 7% of pre-merger market cap. Her pen froze mid-tap. Temporary, she whispered. She read it again, then again. The word was deceptively small, almost invisible, but it shifted the entire weight of the clause. With one subtle edit, Kessler Solutions could walk away from the deal if Whitmore Tech's stock dipped for even one day. Not a week, not a quarter. One bad headline, one rumor dropped into the market bloodstream, and Whitmore Tech would bleed billions while Kessler vanished without owing a dime. Her stomach dropped. She leaned back, dragging a hand across her face. "Marcus," she whispered. He groaned, rolled over. "What?" "Look at this sentence." She spun the Chromebook toward him. He squinted. "Maya, I'm barely passing English. You think I know what market-based valuation means?" She almost laughed, but the weight pressing on her chest was too heavy. "It means they can sink us with a rumor, just a dip, for a day." He blinked, wide awake now. "That's messed up." "Yeah," she said softly. "It is." By dawn, Maya was standing outside Whitmore Tech's glass tower, clutching a coffee she hadn't touched. The sunrise broke across the skyline, casting fire against steel, and she thought of it as a warning. As soon as security unlocked the lobby doors, she darted in and rode the elevator up to the 29th floor. Darius wasn't in yet, so she marched straight to the archives. The sleepy-eyed intern at the desk gave her a raised eyebrow, but she leaned over. "Heition is counter, steady, and sure. I need every draft of the Kessler merger contract," she said. "Version history. Now." He hesitated, then slid his access badge. Within minutes, the printer spat out stack after stack of paper. Maya sat cross-legged on the floor of the archive room, spreading the drafts around her like a lawyer in training, highlighter in hand. She traced the clause across revisions. Early versions had been clean, no temporary in sight. 3 weeks ago, the word had appeared, slipped in during a revision from Kessler's side. A single word that no one had caught. Or worse, ignored. By the time Darius walked into his office at 8, phone pressed to his ear, Maya was already there. He stopped dead when he saw her hunched over the contract on his desk, red circles scrawled across the pages. "Maya?" "5 minutes," she said firmly. He ended the call. "What's going on?" She slid the page toward him, her eyes sharp. "This, Schedule F. Read it carefully." He frowned, scanning. "We reviewed this. Raymond's team already signed off. They skimmed it, or they missed it, or they didn't want to see it." Her finger jabbed at the word. That one word changes everything. If your stock dips 7% for even a single day, Kessler can walk. No penalty, no consequence, and you'll be left exposed. His face shifted, disbelief melting into something darker, anger. He ran a hand over his jaw, pacing to the window. Why the hell would they put this in at the last minute? "Because they're playing you," Maya said flatly. "They'll let you announce the deal, ride the market bump, then leak a rumor to tank your value. One bad headline, one fake leak. Boom, temporary dip. They walk away richer, and you're bleeding out." Darius gripped the bridge of his nose, shoulders taut. For a man who thrived on control, the realization that his empire had been balancing on a trapdoor cut deep. Maya stepped closer, her voice low but strong. "You either renegotiate this clause now or prepare for war. Those are your only two choices." For a long moment, the silence between them was suffocating. Then Darius turned, his gaze locking on her. This is why you're here. You saw what no one else would." Without hesitation, he grabbed his office phone, stabbing the line. "Call the board. Emergency session. Today. I want legal, PR, and MA in the conference room by 10. We're rewriting this deal." Later that morning, Maya sat at the long glass table in Whitmore Tech's executive boardroom. Her seat wasn't labeled, her name wasn't on any plaque, but every set of eyes flicked toward her. Raymond walked in last, his face tight, his jaw clenched. He didn't even glance at her. Darius didn't waste time. "We're pulling Clause F," he said, voice sharp. Redrafting the language. Maya Williams identified a loophole that could have sunk this company. She brought it forward. She's the reason we're still in control of this deal. The silence was electric. One board member, silver-haired and sharp-eyed, leaned forward. "Maya," she said, "how did you learn to spot something like this?" Maya met her gaze evenly. "Because people like me don't get second chances. We have to read the fine print the first time. Our lives depend on it." The woman nodded slowly, respectfully. Raymond finally spoke, his tone cutting. With all due respect, we vetted this clause thoroughly. No, Darius shot back. You glossed it. She caught what you didn't. From now on, every merger document passes her desk first. The message was clear. The waitress wasn't invisible anymore. She was at the table. As the meeting broke, Raymond brushed past her in the hall, his voice low and venomous. Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts. Maya didn't even pause. I don't need the spotlight, she said. I've got the truth. Then she walked away, leaving him blinking in the glass reflection of his own fading power. That evening, Darius placed a folder in front of her in the lab. What's this? She asked. Your official appointment, he said. Director of Legal Innovation, full benefits, full salary. Maya's throat tightened. She looked at the letterhead, the bold typeface of her name. I thought you said I didn't need a title. You don't, Darius said. But they do, and they'll think twice before underestimating you again. For the first time, Maya let herself smile. Small, tired, but certain. The war wasn't over, but she had just claimed her first battlefield victory. The launch day began with a storm. Not rain, though the sky outside Whitmore Tech hung low and gray, but a storm of noise, phones buzzing nonstop, reporters crowding the sidewalks, investors filling the lobby in tailored suits like a second boardroom had spilled into the street. Inside, the auditorium pulsed with the nervous energy of anticipation. Rows of cameras pointed at the stage, their red recording lights blinking like watchful eyes. Maya stood backstage, her binder pressed against her side, the same battered one she had carried since Old Town Cafe. She wasn't in her apron today, but in a blazer that didn't quite fit, bought secondhand, sleeves a little long. Her sneakers squeaked against the polished floor. She had practiced breathing exercises all night, but nothing slowed her racing pulse. Today was more than an app launch. It was the moment the world would decide whether a 19-year-old black waitress turned legal prodigue. This was a miracle or a mistake. Whitmore's PR team had already shoved a script into her hand, polished words written in the safe language of executives. We at Whitmore Tech are proud to unveil. She read it once, then folded it in half and slipped it into her bag. No, she whispered to herself, not like this. From the wings, Darius approached. He looked different too, not the untouchable billionaire, but a man carrying the weight of reputation and risk. You ready? He asked. She met his gaze. I'm ready to tell the truth. His jaw tightened, then relaxed. Then tell it. The lights dimmed, the crowd hushed, and Darius stepped onto the stage. He gave a short welcome, polished, confident, designed to warm up the audience. But when he stepped aside, all eyes shifted to Maya. She walked out into the bright spotlight, the sound of her sneakers echoing against the stage floor. The silence felt suffocating. Hundreds of faces, some skeptical, some curious, some already dismissive. Her throat tightened, but then she remembered the diner, the contract slammed down in front of her, the way she had refused to shrink. She remembered Marcus asking if anyone would ever let her finish her app. She remembered her mother, signing medical forms she didn't understand. Good morning, Maya began. Her voice wavered on the first word, but then steadied. My name is Maya Williams. I was raised 6 blocks from here. I've waited tables. I've studied in the corners of crowded apartments. I've helped my little brother stay in school, and I've watched my mother sign papers she didn't understand, papers that cost us everything. The room was silent, leaning forward. Lawbridge, she continued, isn't just an app. It's a flashlight in a room most people don't even know they're locked in. It doesn't replace lawyers, but it gives people something they've been denied for too long. Knowledge, choices, a fighting chance. She looked out at the crowd, eyes blazing. This isn't about me. I don't need applause. I need you to see what happens when people finally understand the fine print, when they realize contracts, leases, and rights belong to them too. Justice shouldn't be reserved for the fluent. It belongs to all of us. And today, we start proving that. Her words hung heavy in the air before the silence broke. The roar of applause hit her like a wave, reporters rising, cameras flashing, students from the pilot program cheering in the back row. Some executives clapped cautiously, others with genuine fervor. But Maya didn't smile. She only nodded once and stepped off stage. The celebration lasted barely an hour. Then came the backlash. By afternoon, headlines were everywhere. Waitress leads Whitmore's bold new bet. Prodigy or publicity stunt. Tweets flooded in, some praising her as the future, others dripping with venom. Affirmative action at its finest. No degree, no credibility. What has Silicon Valley come to? Maya scrolled through them backstage, her chest tightening. For every young person who wrote, "This app saved my mom from eviction," there was another voice scoffing. She's just a waitress with a microphone. That evening, a closed-door board meeting convened. The air was thick, the mood sharp. One investor, a man in a pinstripe suit with a Princeton pin, leaned forward. "We're not questioning her intelligence, but this is unprecedented. No degree, no resume, and she is now the face of our most visible launch in years." Maya sat at the end of the table, her hands folded tightly to hide trembling. She felt like an intruder in her own victory. But then Darius spoke. He had been quiet until now, watching the debate churn. His voice cut through like glass. "She saved this company from a billion-dollar sinkhole. She built an app that before her was just a half-baked idea. If this board forces me to choose between Maya Williams and donors afraid of change, I choose her every time." Silence followed. Heavy. Final. Maya looked down at her hands, the tremble still there, but this time it wasn't fear. It was adrenaline, power humming under her skin. They had tried to make her invisible. They had tried to erase her. And still, here she was. Later that night, she sat by the window of the lab, city lights glittering below. Her phone buzzed with a text from Marcus. "Don't let them talk slick. You're the real deal." She smiled faintly, wiped her eyes and turned back to the whiteboard. In bold marker, she wrote 3 words that glared back at her like a vow. Launch on time. The world could rage, investors could doubt, trolls could sneer, but Maya knew the truth, and the truth had already begun to spread. Tomorrow, she would not retreat. Tomorrow, she would fight louder. Because tomorrow, Lawbridge would belong to everyone. The winter sun was already low when Maya Williams stepped onto the stage of a community center in Birmingham, Alabama. The air smelled faintly of fried chicken from a church fundraiser next door, and the rows of folding chairs creaked under the weight of neighbors, students, single mothers, pastors, even a congressman or two who had shown up out of curiosity. A faded banner stretched across the back wall in bold blue letters. Lawbridge, free legal education for everyone. She should have been exhausted. The last year had been relentless. Boardroom battles, public backlash, federal contracts. Her face splashed across headlines that alternated between praise and ridicule. But standing here, in front of people who looked like the kids she'd grown up with, people who reminded her of her own mother signing forms she didn't understand, Maya didn't feel tired. She felt like fire. "You ever been told to sign something without knowing what it meant?" she asked the crowd, her voice carrying without a microphone. "Yes," a man in the back said, loud and raw. "More times than I can count." Maya nodded. "Me too. I watched my mother sign a medical payment plan she didn't understand. I watched my neighbors lose homes because no one told them what a clause meant. And I decided to stop waiting for someone to explain it, so I learned to read it. And now we've built a tool that makes sure you can read it too. Not tomorrow, not if you're rich enough. Today, right now." The applause rose like a tide, not polite but urgent, the kind of applause that comes from people who've been waiting too long to be seen. Afterward, people lined up to speak with her. A single mom asked if Lawbridge could help her fight a predatory rent-to-own contract. A retired trucker said he'd used it to challenge an illegal traffic fine. A teenager whispered that it had helped his brother understand the difference between a warrant and intimidation. Maya stayed until every question was answered, every hand shaken. When she finally stepped out the back door into the crisp evening air, Darius was waiting. He leaned against the car, his suit jacket open, a bottle of sweet tea in his hand. "You know," he said, "you just made 3 politicians cry in public." She rolled her eyes. "They'll be fine." He smiled, but then his expression softened. "There's something else," he said, pulling an envelope from his jacket. Maya frowned, suspicious. "What now?" "Open it." She tore it open. Inside was a letter on heavy cream paper, handwritten in neat strokes. "Dear Miss Williams, we are proud to inform you that your re-enrollment at Emory University has been approved with full scholarship. Furthermore, the Law and Social Change Fellowship has been renamed in your honor." Maya froze. The words blurred as her eyes burned. "You did this?" she whispered. Darius shook his head. "No, you did this. I just made a few phone calls to make sure the world caught up." She pressed the letter against her chest, swallowing hard. "I want to finish it," she said quietly. "Not for the degree, for the journey. You've already taught more law than half the professors there," he said gently. "But yeah, finish it." That fall, Maya slipped back into a classroom at Emory. No cameras, no headlines. Just her and a spiral notebook, sitting beside students 5 years younger, hungrier than they knew. But she wasn't just a student now. She was a leader, and her name was on a fellowship for students who wanted to turn law into action. Months passed, and the world spun faster around her. Lawbridge spread to 27 states. The Second Glance Foundation opened its doors, offering grants to youth from neighborhoods just like hers. She testified before Congress on digital access to justice, spoke in juvenile detention centers, and sat with survivors of wage theft, housing fraud, and predatory loans. Everywhere she went, she didn't posture as a savior. She spoke as someone who had once been in their seat. And then, almost exactly 1 year after the night Darius slammed a contract on a diner counter, Maya found herself back at Old Town Cafe. The chipped tile floors hadn't changed. The neon buzz still flickered in the corner. She slid into the same booth, binder tucked under her arm out of habit. Darius joined her, setting down 2 mugs of hot black coffee. No suits today, just him, tired but lighter somehow. "You ever think it would come to this?" he asked. She glanced around the little cafe, remembering the night everything began. "Honestly, I didn't think it would go anywhere." He nodded, chuckling under his breath. "Funny thing is, neither did I." They sat in silence for a moment, 2 people who had built something bigger than either of them had imagined. Then a new waitress approached the table. She was young, nervous, her afro pulled into a puff. She recognized Maya instantly and nearly dropped her notepad. You're her, right? The app lady?" Maya smiled softly. "I am." "My aunt used your app," the girl said breathlessly. "She got her job back after she was wrongfully fired. She said to tell you thank you." Maya reached out, took the girl's trembling hand. "Tell her she did it herself," she said. "I just handed her the flashlight." The girl beamed and hurried off. Darius raised his coffee mug, eyes glinting. "To the ones who never got a second look." Maya lifted hers too, her smile steady now. "And to the ones who made them look again." Their mugs clinked softly, and in that unassuming diner booth, beneath flickering neon, no cameras, no headlines, Maya realized the final, shocking truth. The billionaire who once mocked her wasn't the man who had given her power. He was the man who had learned from her. And the black waitress who once carried plates of pancakes across this floor had rewritten the rules of power forever.